everyone, it's Andrea from Movers and Bakers. Today I'm going to share with you how I make my raspberry and white chocolate loaf. This is a gorgeous moist loaf cake topped with the most amazing white chocolate icing and extra raspberries. Let's get baking. To start with, I'm going to prepare my raspberries. Now this is quite a thick cake when we make it, but I like to do this just to make sure they are not going to sink. It's like an extra fail-safe for me, because the last thing I want is when I've made my cake for my raspberries to have sunk all the way to the bottom and just have a layer of raspberries at the bottom. I want them to be studded all the way through my cake. So I do a couple of things. One of them being, at the start, before I use my raspberries, I'm just going to take a teaspoon of flour out of my flour that I'm going to use later and pop it in my raspberries like that, and then I'm just going to toss them in the bowl just to coat my raspberries in the flour. And what that's going to do is that's going to make the outside of the raspberries a bit, give it a bit more grip. So then when I put it into my cake mixture, it's going to stay more where it is rather than sinking to the bottom because of any moisture or anything like that. So that was a very quick job, and you can see my raspberries are now coated in flour, and I'm going to put those aside and crack on with making my cake. So in a large mixing bowl, I'm going to pop in some butter. This is unsalted butter. And before I add my sugar to it, I'm going to give my butter a quick mix just to make sure it's nice and soft, and so my sugar mixes really well with it. Perfect. So now my butter is lovely and soft. The next thing for me to do is add my sugar to it. I'm going to give that a mix together too. So once your butter and sugar are completely combined and slightly fluffy, it's time for us to do our dry ingredients. So into a sieve, I am going to pop in the rest of my flour, some baking powder, bicarbonate of soda, and some salt. We're going to sift all that in, and while I am sifting is a brilliant time for me to remind you to hit up that like and subscribe buttons as well. And let me know below what your favourite flavour of cake is. There we go. Now we're going to mix all this together. Now once you've mixed all this together, it should come together in a damp sand-like consistency. So once your mixture looks a little bit, let me pop this down. Once your mixture looks a little bit like that, so you can see it's all mixed up and it looks a bit breadcrumby, that's exactly what we want. Perfect. I'm going to set that aside for a couple of minutes while I get my wet ingredients ready. So in a separate bowl or a jug I'm using today, I'm going to make a buttermilk. So I'm going to combine equal quantities of yogurt and whole milk. Now there are lots of different ways of making your own buttermilk. You can use plain milk and put some lemon juice in with it if you want. This is another way of doing it. There are a few different ways. Let me know if you want a video on the different ways or anything like that. I will put one together for you. But this is my preferred way just because I find that I get a much smoother buttermilk and it's much thicker, and it works much better for me in my bakes. So that's my buttermilk. I'm going to use a fork to mix it all together. There we go, that's my buttermilk done, and to that I am going to add in 2 eggs. And we're going to mix that up again. There we go. Now while I have been mixing all my cake ingredients, I have turned on my oven to preheat. So it's been preheating at 180 Celsius or 350 Fahrenheit. And before I started, I lined my loaf pan with some parchment paper. I've got loaf tin liners, but if you haven't got them, it's perfect to use just normal parchment paper. Just make sure you get it all in the corners so you've got nice sharp edges. Right, so I've got my wet ingredients. Back we go to the bowl with my dry ingredients in. I'm going to pour my wet into my dry and give it a mix together. So once you have mixed it together, you don't want to overmix it or beat it or anything. You're just going to mix it to combine. That's exactly what this is. We are done with our beaters. I'm going to set those aside. So once you have combined all those ingredients, I'm just going to give it a quick mix around with my spatula to make sure I've got everything off the bottom. And then I'm going to add in my white chocolate chips. So those are going straight in and they're going to get folded in. Now I like extra white chocolate, so I'm using 200 grams here. But if you're not a big fan or you don't want to put quite so much in, feel free to cut it down. That's absolutely fine too. So we're going to fold this through again and then we'll get onto our raspberries. Now, as you can see, this mixture for the cake is super, super thick, and that's exactly what you want, because that's another thing that I have worked out with making a loaf cake with pieces of fruit in, like raspberries, is if you don't have a nice thick cake mixture to go with it, all your fruit will sink to the bottom. So that is why we have a really, really thick mixture. Right, now that is all mixed through, I have two ways I can go. I could either mix the raspberries into my cake mixture before I put it into my loaf tin, but I prefer to not do that because I don't want to risk breaking up my raspberries in my cake mix. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to put layers of cake mix in and then put layers of raspberry in between. I'm going to kind of do a sandwich thing in my tin as I prepare it to go in the oven. So I'm done putting my raspberries in between my cake layers, and I'm just putting the final layer of my cake mixture on and spreading it out across the top. And I want to make sure that all my raspberries are fully enclosed, and then I'm just using my offset spatula just to level off the top to give me a nice level cake. So once you have leveled your cake off nicely and made sure your raspberries are well enclosed within your cake, it's time to get it in the oven. Now, I find sometimes, because this can take a while in the oven, that the top of my cake can brown a bit too quickly before the middle's had a chance to bake. If you find that, check on it after a half hour or so. If you're finding that the top's browning too quickly, just use a little bit of foil and cover the top of the cake, and that's going to stop the top browning as quickly but give the middle a chance to bake. I shall see you on the other side with a baked loaf cake. Right, welcome back. So my cake is done, it's baked and it's been left to cool, and now it is time for some decoration. So I'm going to make a white chocolate buttercream. To start with, I'm going to pop my butter into my mixing bowl, and I'm going to give this a mix through because I want my butter to be lovely and soft. So once your butter is lovely and soft, it just means that my sugar is going to mix in really well with it. So to that, I'm going to add in some icing sugar. Now I'm not going to add all of it in because I'll end up with it just going everywhere. I'm going to add it in two batches, and I'll mix in between each batch. And time for the second lot. So once you've combined your butter and sugar, I'm going to turn the speed up and give it a really good beat together to get some air into it and make it really light and fluffy. So now that I've given that a good mix, I'm going to scrape my bowl down, and then I'm going to pour in some white chocolate that I have melted down. And this is going to make this icing go from being a regular buttercream to being absolutely heavenly white chocolate. This is my favorite icing ever. So once you have added in your chocolate, you want to give it another really good beat, and you will end up with this beautiful, thick, lovely icing. So once you have finished beating your icing, I like to use a spatula and just push my icing around a little bit. As you can see, a lot of the time when you make icing, you'll have these kind of holes, air pockets in your buttercream. So what I like to do is I like to press it against the side of my bowl, and that's just encouraging those air pockets out so that I have a really silky smooth buttercream without any of the air pockets in it. So once you are happy with getting some of those bubbles out, you don't have to do that, that's totally an optional step. It is time to decorate our cake. So, bring my cake over. I've already got it on the plate that I'm going to serve it on, just for ease. And I'm just going to put this over the top, and then I will spread it out with my offset spatula. So I don't have a set way that I decorate this. I am just going to use my spatula and I'm just going to do some lines going all the way across because I'm going to decorate it on top with some raspberries. So you're not really going to see this decoration anyway. But I like my icing to look a little bit rustic, handmade, so this is perfect for me. So on top of this now, all that I have left to do is to put my toppings. I've got some lovely, beautiful raspberries here you can see. I'm going to put them over the top and then we're going to finish off with some white chocolate chips. And there you have it, my raspberry and white chocolate loaf. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already, and do let me know in the comments below if you get to making this. Thanks for joining me today, my friends. Happy baking.